with long distance gamers, and I fell in love with Ethnos. Never really was a fan of the art. It warmed up to me, but I was always wanting them to do a reprint with some cooler artwork, which was awesome. So when I heard about Archeos Society in an exploration theme, I had to get it. So pre-ordered it as soon as I could. Finally arrived, got to play it a bit, and I got a comparison of what it is like versus Ethnos and what I think about which version is best. For everything, I will try to put Archeos Society over here, Ethnos over here. So for starters, the rule book. So a little bit shinier, more of a papery feel. This is a bit longer, so it goes more in depth. This is where you get your components. They have a whole entire page. And then this is set up with 2 to 3 players. I had to make a note. Clear on page 11. Versus this just tells you how to do everything right there and there. It shows you this does not have anything in comparison because this has some special things as far as what each of these can do. So then it goes into playing through the age. And then it goes into the end of the age, or, you know, the end of the season. So there's expedition size and points versus band of allies. And then there's respective points. And it is 0, 1, 3, 5, 6 in Ethnos versus 8 in Archeos Society. And then, 4 was 6. And then our Ethnos has 5 at 10, and this has 5 at 8. And then this has 6 or more with 12. Which 6 is 15 on here. So there's slightly less points in here, but there's a reason for that. Which we'll get into that. Yeah, it has a nice handy chart right there too. And then it goes into the 2 to 3 players. This goes into some frequently overlooked rules. And then this goes into all of the tribes that you get. And then it has a promo, Tribe of Fairies. Versus this one, it has it on the back. It goes into all of the leaders that you can get. And then all the archaeological sites, a brief summary of there. Versus the back of this rule book has a brief rule summary. So I'm happy that the back of both of them are useful. Okay, so the board. So Ethnos, you will place your tokens on here. You will track your victory points on here, and it has how much victory points everything is worth right there. So you start with these. I have them separated between the 4 players and then the ones for 2 to 3. So you would just randomly pull these out. In a 2 to 3 player game, they only are here, with the highest one going in the 2 and that. So you would do that for all of them. And then if you have 4 players, there would be a 1 in stage 3. Versus Archeos Society, they track here your points, which this is very flimsy. And then it shows how many of each of the sets are right here, which is pretty big. This is in the center of the table. People could easily see that, versus this is kind of hard to see. This is a 6-player game, so you do want to kind of think that this is a fairly small board for 6 players, so you're kind of like crammed around there. Versus Archeos Society has the locations, instead of being all on one, they have these individual ones. So let's put them all here. So they have a basic side that just has, you do this, you lay a expedition of that many cards. Kind of hard to see. And then you would get to move forward past this line. And then whatever line you're at for each of the end of the rounds, you'll get that many points. That's the basic one. So this one, you would have 2 markers and then choose one to move forward, and you get the points for whichever one is furthest behind. So if you have one all the way up here, but your other one is clear back here, you would only get 0 points. But if they were both up here, you would get 20 points. And it's like this one, it's like 1, 1, 1 to move forward, but it's slower points. And then on the back side, it's 1, 2, 3. But this symbol means that you're grabbing from the top of the deck. And I do really like the artwork. It's like versus over here, you just have this. You have different artwork on each side. And then you have, like, it's slightly different for all of them, which ones you can move forward. Like this one, you can go forward, and then whoever is furthest ahead at the end of the round will get 3 points and then reset to the beginning. Like this is the basic side versus this side. Once you move past that line, you will grab from what is available, I believe. Versus, where are you? This one is the top of the deck. Okay, no, that one you don't grab anything. You can play another set. So if you're past this, at the end of that round, you could play another expedition equal to that number. So if you're up here, you could play another expedition equal to 4 when the third monkey is drawn, which that'll make more sense here in a little bit. So this one, it's interesting. So this is the basic one. So you get 1 card to move up here, and it'll be -2 points, and then 2 card expedition to get 2 points, and then another 1 takes you down to 0. 3 will take you up to 6. Another 1 takes you down to 3. So it goes up and down for this one. And then this one, you can choose to move forward, and then at any point, you can choose to move all the way back. So if you get all the way up here, you could choose to take them all off to come all the way back to here. This is the basic side. And then this side, if you are alone, you get the big number. If you're with anybody else, you would get the small number. Everyone would get the small number. So if you're all the way up here, anyone would get 12 points. Versus if you're here, if you're alone, you get 10. But if someone else is with you, you only get 5. So those are how that is. And they would all be set out like so. So you can see it takes up a lot of space. It actually has it suggested in the rule book to go like that. But, so like it would be set up like that. Something. And then this would also be, so you can see this is a much bigger footprint than this. This is pretty much just the places themselves, and then it has this as well. And it's actually like 1/4 of the space, or 2/3 of the space about. So this has a bigger footprint, which could be good, could be bad, depends on your type of group. So that is the game board. How you score for this is pure whoever has majority. So whoever would have the majority in the first one would get 0 points. And these are obviously change out. And then whoever has the majority in the second would get 2 points. And then whoever is second place would get then the 0, which it could be different numbers, of course. Okay, so to say when the round ends, you have these 3 dragons. They'll be in the bottom portion of the deck. So when the 3rd dragon comes out, the end of the round happens, you score up, and then you might go on to the next round, or the game might be over. Versus here, we have the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil monkeys. And when the 3rd one is drawn, that signals the end of the round. Over here, in order to choose which ones you get, you can shuffle these up and then draw 6. 1, 2, 3. And then those would be the 6 that you would play with for that round. There is nothing like that over here, although you could just take one of the cards and shuffle and do the same things if you would want to. Okay, so we'll continue on with the people, and then I'll go over the player components. Actually, let's go over the player components first, so that way I can show you it as I'm doing the people. So in Ethnos, you have these really pretty markers, which these got some disdain because it doesn't look like anything here. But it is really pretty. This was actually my favorite part of the game, was these markers. favorite component was these markers. Absolutely loved them. And then you get a whole bag of them. So you have multiple uses of them. It's like if you're getting it, you would just need an expedition of 1 to place down here versus to place another one in that area. You would need an expedition of 2 or more. If you do more, you could obviously get more points at the end of the round, but it doesn't make it so that you could place multiple of these. And then you could place a 3 to get 3. So then you would have the majority in this one. And then all of these would be tied. The second one, which I think would mean that they would all get the next one down. I'm not 100% on that one. You also would use this to track your victory points around. And then if you ever cross over the 60 range, you would put another marker on top of it. So then you would know that you would have 81 points if you were right there. Versus over here, we have these components. So they're different shapes, which is nice. Versus all of these are all the same, just different colors, but they're all kind of like colors, but they do kind of match the expedition. However, some of them can like very much disappear when you're in certain areas. And then for the tracking of the score, you have this, which flips from its blank side to its 100 side. So you would use this to track, and it weaves in and out. And then once it gets to 100, you flip it over and then move back around. I've never seen anyone get over 200, but I guess that could be possible, maybe. Then it would be pretty much the end of the round and you'd be able to remember, hopefully. And then these you would just put at the beginning of each of these. You'd put 1 at the beginning of each of these every game, and then just move forward when you place the expedition with, you know, whatever card is numbers here is how many you have to have in your expedition, of course. So to get from here to here, you have to have 2. If you would lay down a group before, you couldn't just jump up to here. You just still only move forward 1 spot, just like you only place 1 token here. Okay, so that is player pieces. And then you do get a few more for here. You don't need as many because you will only ever have up to 2. There's one that you have 2 on, but unlike these, you could get pretty high stacks over here. Okay, so people, or the races, the leaders. So we have merfolk for Ethnos, and we have what is this one called? Unfortunately, they don't say up here, so I have a handy dandy little right here. So versus the linguist. She's the linguist. So they each have their own board. So you would place your token here. Everyone would have it, and then you would move forward. Once you pass this, you would get to place another token on any of the spots out there. And then at the end of the round, it would be worth so many victory points. And then there's a 2 to 3 versus a 4 to 6 side for that one. Versus our linguist has these, which you would have your token on the 0 and then move it forward. With every time you passing one of these, you get to move up one of your pieces over here. And then whoever's furthest ahead at the end of the round gets 2 victory points. So then we have the wizard or the patron. So this one, if you do notice, Ethnos has written out versus we have symbolism on Archeos Society. So much better for language independence. So you could just, someone would have to be able to learn from the rule book, but then be able to just explain what they are. However, there's a lot to remember, and this is the only thing that there is, so there's no player aid. So I just took a picture of this to be able to remember it when I played, and then been able to give that to whoever I played with. But so, you know, draw X cards from the deck. They're the same people, same thing. And then we have the halfling. So these, they cannot be expedition leader. They cannot be a leader. So this one, you cannot place a marker on the board if this one's the one on top. Basically, in order to play something, it either needs to be the same color or the same type. So more halflings or more students. And this is just you can't move your marker forward, is what that one is. But whichever one is on top will dictate what you can do. This would be called a band. So a band of 2. So you'd be able to place over there versus this would be a band of 2 over here with the same color. It could also be multiple of the same symbol over there or multiple of the same type right there. We have dwarf versus the photographer. So the band counts as X plus 1 for end of age scoring. Same thing right here. All of these are a 1-for-1. There is no distinction between any of these. There's ever so slight variations as far as the extra boards, but that's the only difference. We have literal 1-for-1. So if you have 5 of these, it would count as a 6. We have the centaurs and the cartographers. So, it says right on here, if you place a marker on the board, you may then place another band of allies immediately. So if you place one that makes it so that you can move forward, you get to place another one. This one's a little bit less intuitive than some of these other ones we've seen, but it's the same as the centaur. And then we have elves and the physicians. It lets you keep X cards in your hand. So if you lay a band or an expedition of 3, you get to keep 3 more cards in your hand. We have the giant and the botanist. So these ones, if you play the highest one that's been played, so if someone has played a 2 and you've played a 3 with a giant lead, you would then get this, which is immediate worth 2 victory points. And then at the end of the round, it would be worth an additional, if you have it, for the number of players. So there's that one. Versus the botanist, you would grab this. It's worth 2 points if you get it, and 2 points at the end, and that's the same no matter players. We have the orcs, which we will... So the orcs versus the curator. So once you play it down, you would take that color. So it shows you which one it is right there. So this has the picture of the turtle. And you would place it next to there. So once at the end of the game, you would then get victory points based on how many you are. So if you have 3, you would get 6, versus if you have 5, you would get 15, and 6 would be 20. Versus the orc, it is slightly different. So you would place it on the matching one, and then you could choose to take them off at the end of the round, I believe. So like if you got all 6 in one round, you could then choose to take them all off, score your 20 points, and then restart for the next round. Or if you got 5, you could pull them off and then try to get up, because you might be able to get 3 the next round. So that's an ever so slight difference. We have skeletons versus mercenary. These are wild. They can't be used as leaders, but they can beef up anything. So they could count as a purple. So if we take all of our purples in our hand, and that counts as a purple. So then we would be able to have a 5 instead of just a 4 with that. So that just counts as a wild. Same with the skeletons. And then must be discarded before end of age scoring. So it helps you move forward if need be. The Minotaur versus the Guide. So this band counts for X plus 1 for placing markers on the board. So in order to place another one here, you would need a band of 4 to place another marker, because you have 3. I could keep these all together. You don't normally lift them up like that. So then normally you would have to place a band of 4. This one would let you place a band of 3 to then be able to place another one on top of it. And same thing with this. Instead of needing 2 to cross this line, you would just need a 1. We have wingfolk or the pilot. So basically, you can place anywhere or move anywhere. So if I want to place here, and I place the wingfolk with orange leading, I would normally have to place in the orange, but instead I could place there. Or if I had a big enough to be able to place on top of there, I could place on top of there. Here, you could just, as long as you have enough cards in your expedition to pass that line, you can pass that line. The trolls versus the professor. So these, they have their own tokens. So these will be out at the beginning of the game. Say you place a 5 band, you could then place this 5, or you could then grab this 5, I mean. And that would go in front of you to score at the end of the round. Versus if you have placed a 5 and someone else had grabbed it, then you could grab this 4. So you could grab up to the amount that you have, the highest number that is available. And same thing for the professor, just they have these tokens instead. So same concept, they have a little book behind their number. So that way you could easily tell that it is her, and you can just grab whichever one you lay down up to that number. So that is it for the components. I will say the insert. So for the inserts for Archeos Society, it has this that I have used plastic baggies for to separate all the player pieces. So the curators has all of theirs with it. So if you play with the curator, you just pull out everything. Otherwise, you'll just leave those in the bag. And then all of the players, or all of the leaders, have their own little card slot. And that one's a fairly nice insert. For Ethnos, well, I took the insert out because these were supposed to be put in its own thing and like that, and they were constantly falling out. So it didn't work. And I liked having each of these cards in its own little baggie. So if I'm playing with the giants, I can just pull out the giants. So I'm going to keep the Archeos Society insert probably, but obviously not keeping the Ethnos. Okay, so that is the comparison. There is one other promo that is with Ethnos, that is the fairies, which I just have written right there. Might not be able to see it, but I don't have it. So basically, if I wanted to play with the fairies, I'd be like, okay, well, the trolls will be in here, but they'll be counted as the fairies. There technically is no similar one for the expedition, or for the Archeos Society. Same thing though, you could probably just throw one of these in there and be like, okay, this will count as, come up with a thematic name for fairies for Archeos Society and play it like that. So that's kind of disappointing. I was kind of hoping that they would include that promo army into this new one, but because you can't get your hand on fairies, I have tried. So price point and quality of components. So this one feels cheaper than this one by far. I love these chunky components. A lot of people complained about these because they're very jarring compared to the rest of it. You know, you get these really pretty, beautiful colors versus that artwork. And you get this artwork versus these wooden components, which they're nice. They're nice wooden components. I just would rather them be prettier colors, but then people would probably complain about them because these are fairly, you know, expedition type colors that you would expect. And you get the pretty colors if you play with the curator. And the locations, like, so like this matches that location, by the way. I didn't go over that. Like the purple matches there. It says Durig or Duris, and this says Duris right there. Shows that. Versus this, it just shows the green with the snakes. Versus the checkered or patch weave with the blue, which is right there. So it is the different designs and colors. Versus this is different colors and names. So there is some differences, so it kind of depends. Obviously, if you don't have Ethnos, this is probably the version you're going to have to get. There might be a chance for you to get Ethnos for a decent price. Now that this exists, people might be trying to sell off. This one was average for price points for when it came out. This one is below average for current average games, because this is, in the Ticket to Ride size box. So it's actually a fairly cheaper box. It's only like $40 if you buy it on like Game Nerds and whatnot. So it'd be about $50, when it seems like it's $60 for an average game nowadays, possibly $70, $75. But yeah, but this one's on the cheaper end of the normal, versus this was pretty much normal retail price. So there is slight differences, so that might explain why this is a very flimsy thing, while this, yes, just stays on the board. If this gets a bend in it, it will make it very hard for you to slide your pieces across, versus this, it's all on one thing, and it's nice, wood or cardboard. So, and these are nice, they do the thing. It's kind of like what your preference is. I like the artwork better on this. I like the theme better on this. I like the components as far as the physical pieces better on this. And the card quality. So these just feel nicer than these. It's like they feel stronger. They get less beat up. Like these have already started slightly warping. And one of them, you can see the student. Like you can easily tell that the student is right there. It's like you can tell where the students are. So, which, I mean, if you're playing with just two people, you can turn or a few people, you could turn the deck so that it's not facing anyone. But when you're playing a full 6 people, you might have to sleeve your cards, which forced sleeving is kind of crappy. So, just be aware of that. I love this game. My fiance loves this game. Well, Ethnos, he played a lot. He's only played this one with me once. So he said that he'd want to play it again, but this one he has requested multiple times, which is why I was like, okay, I gotta try this one. He thought that this one was a little bit more complicated to learn versus this one, because you have to move forward in the track versus just place a new token on top of another one. So there was that slight issue for him. This one, the points are randomized every time, versus here, the points can stay consistent, but you can randomize which side you're going to do. They recommend you only doing one special one at a time, but you know what? It would be your game. You could do whatever you want. You could have all 6 of them special if you wanted. But yeah, but basically you just play 2 rounds if you're playing in 2 or 3 players. If you're playing 4 to 6, you would play 3 rounds. And then whoever has the most points is the winner. That's basically how you play the game, and it's a very enjoyable game. I do love it. Either version, whichever one you can get your hands on, is probably the version that you're going to want to get. But it is a very great game. Maybe they'll release that Fairies expansion alike with this one, and we could actually finally get our hands on it. But we shall see on that one. Maybe they'll come out with new expansions, because this is ripe for expansions. You could easily put in more people, which would be awesome. Change the game more, have more variety. This one will probably never get another expansion again. But if you really like the artwork on this one, you might want to do that one. I have seen a couple secondhand copies on Board Game Geek for like $30, which is a lot cheaper than they were before this version came out. So you might be able to get your hands on some. You might not. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, just remember to have fun, be present, and be you. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you find value in our content, please like, comment, or subscribe. Let a friend or family member know that we exist. Help us spread our channel and bring remote gaming to a table near you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.